Welcome, and thanks for tuning in to our DRL GP webinar mini-series. My name is Dylan Diggs, and next to me are my fellow M&E teammates, Saria Salk and Giovanni Dazzo. Today we are focusing on developing M&E plans and performance indicator tracking tables, which follow the webinar on logic models.
No matter what type of logic model you're using for your project, be it a traditional or plain English or even an alternative visual version, the performance indicators or measures for the project should be tracked in an M&E plan and a performance indicator tracking table.
Now, once the program logic is established, implementers develop their M&E plan, which outlines in table form how the organization plans to collect, analyze, and report the indicator measures for the grant. This is a simple M&E plan here. The components that make up an M&E plan include the activities, the indicator definition and unit of measure, the indicator type and source, the data source and disaggregation, the timing, frequency, or schedule, the responsibilities, known data limitations, and then the baseline and targets for that indicator. Now I will go into each of these in more detail. The activities column is simple. It should be derived from your logic model, and it just lists the activities that your organization will do. The next column are the indicators. These should be numbered depending on your organization's M&E practices. Following on, here we get into the indicator definition. Now, this is a critical element as it breaks down the key terms in the indicator itself so that all users of the M&E plan can clearly understand what is measured. This provides examples for what data are counted towards the indicator, and it explains how the data will be calculated. The latter is especially true for indicators that assess change in knowledge gained as determined by pre- and post-tests. For the indicator type and source column, this spells out whether the indicator is an output or an outcome measure. And then we have our source, which is where the indicators come from. Now, this is whether it is a custom indicator for the grant awarded, meaning whether or not you've designed it for your organization. It can also be an organizational indicator for the implementing partner, or it can be a F indicator, in which case you would use the indicator number found in the F indicator reference sheets. Note that these are provided on the DRL resource website. In the next column, we have our data source and disaggregation. Here, depending where the indicator is derived, the data source should be the data collection tool you're using to answer the indicator. It might be training attendance sheets, pre- and post-tests, interviews, legal strategy documents, social media analytics. It really depends on what data collection method you're using. For data disaggregation, this outlines the way the data will be further broken down. For example, since this indicator is tracking the number of individuals, we are interested in data disaggregated by gender, geography, or where a country or city or region from which the individual is coming from. Then we're also looking at the type of rights work conducted or issue that he or she works on, such as access to justice or labor. It really should depend on what's most important for this indicator. In the next section is the timing, frequency, or schedule. This is where you should detail how often will you be collecting this data. So if it's every quarter, if it's annually, if you're just doing a baseline and the end line, please detail this here, detail where you're analyzing this data, and how you are also reporting this data. That level of cadence is very helpful in your communication. The next column is the responsibility section. This is an opportunity for you to detail who is responsible for data collection, data analysis, and reporting. Following this, we want you to detail the known data limitations. Often when tracking individual demographics, such data is self-reported, which individuals may wish not to disclose due to security sensitivities. Other data limitations may stem from the availability of timeliness of data, in which cases the M&E plan creates opportunities to mitigate these data challenges by recognizing the potential challenges and then offering solutions to mitigate those challenges. Finally, the M&E plan contains baseline numbers and target numbers. If we do not know those targets at a certain point, we can say that it'll be TBD, but eventually we're going to want you to provide that target. After forming an M&E plan, project staff should better understand their actual information needs. Remember, it's best to collect data on a need-to-know basis, as we're dealing with time and resource constraints. If you've developed a comprehensive M&E plan, this all should be much easier to do.
And here we have a sample drafted M&E plan. Note that not every activity is required to have both an output and an outcome measure. DRL encourages indicator development and selection of indicators that are useful and meaningful for both our implementing partners and our program team. This means that often there will be both types of indicators, outputs and outcome indicators, in the M&E plan. DRL expects our implementing partners to plan on using measures for every outcome listed in the logic model. That also means that each outcome will either be tracked as a performance indicator or in addition to, designing evaluations that assess how well our implementing partners actualize the expected outcomes. So now that we have an M&E plan in place, DRL strongly encourages our implementing partners to use a performance indicator tracking table. We affectionately call this the PIT. We note that other funders use a performance management plan, or PMPs, and these are similar in their function. A template for the PIT, the Performance Indicator Tracking Table, is available on our DRL Resources webpage. Here, we'll walk through very quickly that what is contained in a PIT. It has the indicator data with the actuals and the targets. It also provides the cumulative totals for the grant. We just do want to remind everyone that PITs offer a simple snapshot of progress, and they should be included in all quarterly and final reports. Here we're looking at a sample PIT. We're reporting here for two indicators: the number of human rights defenders trained on digital security practices and the percentage of human rights defenders improving digital security practices. I want to note that the number of HRDs trained and supported is an F indicator, and as you'll see, where we have the indicator number, we're also including the F indicator number itself. That way, we can see quite quickly that this is a reference to a framework indicator for foreign assistance. So as we're tracking the number of human rights defenders, again, we have individuals as a unit of measure, so that comes with disaggregations, similar to what Dylan was just describing on an earlier slide. Those disaggregations ought to be included in the PIT itself. That way you can have the numbers broken out and ready to go. Here we have disaggregations for location and gender. For the next indicator, here we have an example of reporting on a percentage change in knowledge or practice as measured in a pre-post test. And we have a baseline where we've noted that the post-test results will be reported. And so in a performance indicator tracking table, the length of it really depends on how many indicators you have in your project. And that, again, we don't have a minimum or maximum number of indicators. We just simply want to reinforce the use of meaningful and useful indicators. We do want to note that the standard PBRB forms are no longer required for the F Foreign Assistance Framework indicators. And we just want to emphasize that these foreign assistance F indicators should be included in the PIT. And again, just noting the indicator numbers where appropriate.
Thanks again for tuning in for our DRL GP M&E webinar mini-series. Look out for another webinar that focuses on logic models, which offers guidance on designing programs. Please feel free to reach out if you have questions using our team email address, drl-gp-me@state.gov. Thank you so much.